Hi. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi. I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly.
हेलो दैट may as well happen. ठीक है. So I guess I'll be starting with an untitled or an undecided game. So I don't have any concept at the moment, or maybe we'll be going with a horror themed game. But for now, I'll just start grey boxing stuff, that is by creating UI loading screen and a walkable character. Right. So alright. Let me create a folder called as main. Right. जहाँ पे I'll put in the scene. Correct. I'll also call the scene as main menu. Right. Now within the main menu, I'll get rid of everything else, and I'll also make my target resolution as full HD. Alright. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a canvas, and I'll call this main canvas, right? Which will be having a graphic raycaster because I need that to interact with other UI elements, and then I'm going to create an image within it. Now this image must be full correct. This image is as good as basically a panel, right? A panel is nothing but an image which I will be making black, calling it background, right, if ever required. So within the background, I'm going to start with three main buttons, of course being play, settings and exit, probably continue as well if I require to use it in the future. So basically I'll go and I'll create this background, and I'll create the game object which will also be then full rect, but I'll shift its anchors to cover a said part of the screen. It's somewhat like this, maybe even less. Cool. So within here I'll call this game object as buttons or options basically. Background will contain options, not really background. Another object within the main canvas should be containing options for different buttons such as play, for instance. Let's also make it full rect, and then I'll go to UI and I'll try to import a TMP button, right? So after that I'll also be removing this buttons, oops, my bad. Yeah, I'll also be removing this buttons image, and I will be changing its text to play, right, by making it auto sizable as well, which has a minimum size of 18 and a maximum size of 72, right. Alright, now to not have our graphic raycaster detect everything, I'm just going to turn off graphic raycast target or maskability onto other images that I am not using currently, right, such as this text. But of course I should be using raycast target onto this button image, because elsewise I wouldn't be able to hover my mouse over this button. So now that I have this image as a raycast target, I'm now able to click it. It wouldn't be possible if this were turned off. Now I don't need such functionalities for the background definitely, so I'm going to turn off this options onto that image, right, and then I just duplicate this once. I'll call this quit, right, a button that says exit, or maybe exit is a better name and doesn't sound negative, maybe, I don't know. Then we have play, settings and settings, alright. So for all these options I can now use a vertical layout group where I can control its child size as well as child height, and I can then provide some spacing of say 10 pixels between each and every button, right. I would also want just one more button above play, that would be called as continue, or basically play should be also named as new game, right, instead of play, which is very generic. Right, now I am not going to replace any of these icons with something with some other artwork, because I don't have the at the moment, but I'll be creating a gray box which I can replace at a later date. So for this instance I wouldn't want continue to be interactable, which means I'm going to disable this button, right? And then I'm also going to select all of the text mesh pros, and I'll be changing their color to fit the black. Alright, so that's it. And also I guess the grayed out part for the continue button is a bit much in my opinion, which means I'll be changing it to white, and I'll be instead of changing the vibrance to, let's say, 75 or maybe 60, right? So it kind of looks like this, which is clear to differentiate from the rest, right? So yeah, that is the button that we have. Continue in the game settings and exit. Simple enough. Alright, now we are allowed to put these buttons anywhere we want. Let's say in modern games, generally such buttons are not available at center. Now since we have created anchors, we are now free to move these anchors anywhere we want, such as if we want it on the left hand side. Let's say we don't want it on the extreme left, in which case we can put it out biased to the left side, right? Maybe we can also increase some of its length if required, right? Maybe even give it some height, right? Like let's say 1.5 and 8.5, right? So now that they have more height, correct? Maybe we can even increase the spacing a bit if even required, but I would suggest to keep the spacing at an even number, such as 12 or 16 or maybe 20, which seems nice, right? So yeah, that is basically the main menu. Alright, we can have a background that shows literally anything, a character or whatever, and then we can have these options that basically show up. Alright, so now I want to add functionalities to this. Awake please. That's the wrong syntax, my friend. It's awake. Okay, yeah, the stream is open, I guess. So let's see next. Where were we? Yeah, what, okay, yeah, scripts. We, right, and I'll be creating basically settings, right? This is the, I think this is going to be the master class to hold literally every single value that should be remembered within the game, or even hold some helper functions that will help us, manage the game a bit. For instance, let's say a quit button, right? Public void exit, right? Usually exit button consists of application.quit, but since it doesn't run in editor, we'll add an editor function, that is, it is only to be ran within the Unity editor, and I don't want to include namespace on the top, or else Mirko f and end of directive वापस लिखना पड़ेगा, that is I would have to write this directives again if I were to add it onto the namespaces. So I'm just going to write Unity editor dot editor application dot is playing should be set to false, right? That's it. That's the most generic exit function, and it really doesn't require much, right? That's fine. So since this settings script exists, I don't want this to be a mono behavior. I want this to be a scriptable object, which means I can create a set menu and I can write file name as new settings, right? So I'll go to my main folder. I'll create one more folder. This will be called as objects. Within here, for now, I'll be creating the settings and I'll name this settings as default, right? So when I go to exit button, that is whenever I am to press this button, oops, it's here, yeah, my bad. I'll add a listener that says or calls the exit function. So basically if I press play and if I were to click other buttons, it wouldn't work. But if I were to click exit button, this should have stopped the inspector, or it should have stopped the editor application. Not really. Alright, seems weird. Was the script saved? Is it even running? We'll just try to print this out just to make sure if it is running or not. It does seems to call. Oh, my bad. Yeah, I wasn't paying enough attention and I set the wrong variable. That is false. The value of false should be set to string and not as post. Yeah. Good thing I tried to check. Yeah, alright, great. Now we do want to have a settings options. Now for settings options, what we can do is we can create yet another game object within this canvas, or maybe we can create another canvas directly, alright. That is, we can say this UI should be a part of this canvas, that is correct. And also within this canvas we can inherit stuff, right? Now the main canvas doesn't really require a graphic raycaster or scaler or whatever, but the inbuilt canvas, or not the inbuilt, the child canvas does. So in this case I am going to drag and drop this within the canvas, and I'm going to call this main canvas, right? So if I press play, I still hope it executes everything. Yeah, because the main canvas doesn't really require a canvas, a graphic raycaster, right? Now since non-root canvases will not be scaled, shader channels are often used which can wireless not support. Yeah, of course, but I cannot just go with none, right? Alright, and also I'll have this main canvas have a sorting order of 100, so it is usually on the top, right? And within this main canvas I can now have the ability to turn this off or on at any given frame or any given moment. Also, maybe I can draw this background onto the parent canvas, so for whenever any canvas is turned off, it doesn't just make the background disappear. It just keeps the background still, right? So if we wanted to have another background, we can maybe add shaders to it, such as blur effects or anything else if required, right? So all right, so basically canvases within canvases, wherein we can inherit stuff such as the pixel perfect values, additional shader channels, and canvas scaler and whatnot, right? What if we were to remove canvas scaler from the main object, you ask, right? Will it still work? I mean, it would work as designed, as we had designed it, right? Since we never told it to bleed and it was purely based on anchor points, there is some amount of bleeding inherited from the vertical layout group, that is spacing. So basically this would still scale just fine, right? If we were to remove the canvas scaler from the main canvas, the base canvases will not be scaled, that is non-root canvases will not be scaled. So yeah, that is also one more thing. So I'll just switch back to 1920 1080 again, right, because this is the reference or the final resolution that I do require, and within that I have a main canvas, correct? Alright, now this can definitely draw on whatever background I would be holding out, and I also want the blocking mask should be nothing but UI, right? So if I now press play, does it still register? Yeah, because it will only be registering the elements placed under the layer UI, right? Because I don't want anything else. So that is also one thing, right? I will just add this canvas color right here. I'm not really sure of its purpose right now, but I guess I'll figure it out, or maybe I'll have to research. So the another main canvas would be, sorry, not the main canvas, the other canvas would be the settings canvas, right? Basically what we can do is, if we want it to overlay, we can draw it on top of the other panels, right? So let's say if we want a settings to be an entire menu, and while we are in settings we don't really want to see this options, we can do that. Or maybe if we want to have settings on the right hand side of this buttons, then there is really no need for other canvases. So maybe I'll just get rid of this, and I'll create a whole new panel just for settings and nothing else, right? So reset everything, again create everything to black, because this settings panel will be having a black background, or maybe whatever background we prefer, it doesn't matter much. So for this instance, I guess I just go with vibrance of 20 and consider that as my settings background. Alright, so maybe I can only disable or enable canvas for whenever required, right? I can also have an object called as canvas group for when I want to switch between the alpha channels, and it's basically going to help me fade in fade out this values. Alright, fade in or fade out between different canvases if animations were made. So within this panel what I'm going to add is, let's also call this background, right? This is parent background. Now we can also opt to not have a background, so that we would only be seeing the parent background if ever required. Or maybe in that case, for whenever we also press the settings button, we would only want settings to show up, that is, settings canvas would get enabled, as well as main canvas would get disabled, right? So now if I press play, my main canvas is going to go away, and now I am totally onto the settings canvas, which also shares the same background as the parent background, right? So yeah, so again for that we'll just have the panel, and yeah, and उसके ऊपर I'll disable this for now, and panel के अंदर I'll also have, maybe not disable the canvas entirely, may disable the game object so that I am visually able to see. I need to enable it later, right? So I'll select the panel and add a few options to it, such as first of all a text on the top, right, indicating that it is the settings options, right. And also I would be better if it were held via anchor points, that is settings, and I'll get it to have small caps and bold as well. Alright, so there's that. I would also not want any rich text, recast target, visibility sender or whatever onto this text mesh pro element. Alright, also I would also like to have this settings a background. Basically what I can do is I can hold it in a different game object, and I'll just call this title, like that shares literally the same direct as settings. Within the title I can add an image that has nothing in it, just black, or maybe a different shade, let's say a darker shade of blue, and along with it an image, right? So this basically creates the title. Now when designing UI, I like to keep stuff or in such a hierarchy that I am able to create an English sentence out of it, saying canvas's settings panel title. So basically I can say title is set along with an image, right? Title is set along with an image, title text within a panel and settings that is being held by parent canvas, basically. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I'll just have this right here, and after the title I now want a set of other options to then fill up the rest of my area, basically within this, right, within this different game object. Now this is going to be called as options again, right? So within this maybe I can create a scrollable area, or maybe I can not have a scrollable area and just squeeze everything under one part. So basically I'll be creating yet another game object, and the first setting that I may require would be, I guess, a volume slider wouldn't hurt, right? So yeah, maybe that, maybe that. Or maybe I can also have different panels for which settings to activate at first. right? So essentially I can also call this, instead of panel I'll just call this again background panels. I'll call this tabs, right? Tabs shouldn't be taking much space, but a small amount, that is right here. And within the tabs I can have a horizontal layout group that is going to control the width and height both, right? And within this tabs I can add more game objects. Now we cannot definitely change them, right? So I'll call this option as maybe general video and audio, right? So before we do that, I would like to set up the general first, right? Background basic maskability वगैरह निकाल देना. I also don't need this title text में. I guess I've done stuff. Yep. Tabs के अंदर, generals के अंदर I'll create again a button, and that is going to be full rect. Alright, and I don't want this button to have any graphic. I'll also call this general. Definitely would be auto sized, and also color would be pure black, right? Now out of this general I can now create audio and then video maybe, right? Right. So after that we can have these tabs also implement the same spacing as the UI, that is 20 pixels or maybe just 10 pixels, right? So we now have three tabs, that is within general, audio and video, which we can select from to go to different settings, right? Now within the general settings we can have just a different image or a different game object here. Sorry, not image, game object. Yeah. So this is the section and this is the area that we can work in, right? According to our rec points. So what can we add in general? No idea, right? So I'll just call this general settings, right? And then I'll call this audio settings. Now within audio settings I'll just add one step for now, that is the audio slider, or maybe the SFX slider, VFX slider, whatever it is supposed to be. That is, I'll go to UI, I'll add the slider, and before adding the slider of course I would be creating again an empty game object, right? And I wouldn't be taking up much space within this child rect, but just 10% of what is offered, or maybe 20, right? Also I would also like to start from 0.9 I guess. So maybe that isn't supposed to be the part of the audio settings, but supposed to be part of the entire rect that I have for some reasons provided. So I would start stuff from around here. So in that case it wouldn't take up or stick directly up with the general audio or video settings, whatever. So within this game object I'll just say volume, right? And for this volume I'll be creating an empty game object, and not really empty game object, sorry, I'll be creating a text mesh pro. This will be called as label, okay? Label text tmp, right? I'll make this full rect, and also I'll only make it share half of the screen or half of the rect. So essentially something like this, and I'll align it to the right and middle by making it auto sized, and I'll call this volume, correct? After that, I'll also be creating a UI slider onto the right hand side, that is by sharing the right part of the same rect, removing any possible bleedings, and this is the slider that we have for some reasons, right? So I'll be removing the backgrounds, right? I'll be also changing the fill area and the bleeding back to 0, as well as the fill bleeding back to 0, and I'll maybe change the handle at something else, yes, something like this maybe. And also we can also now decide what color fill should be. So let's say for now it should be teal, right? So if I were to adjust the slider, it would be something like this, which is not that bad, right? Yeah. So also that covers up one of our settings. Alright, now it looks a little weird that ये इतना right से क्यों चला, why is it also justified to the right hand side, in which case we now do want the entire audio settings to not cover the entirety of the screen horizontally as well. That is, by restricting 10% to the left and 10% to the right, we now have the remaining part, whereas the label should also be centered, I guess, for now, but we can change that later. Also, label shouldn't be taking up 50% of the shared rect, maybe 40 is just fine, right? Whereas the content, right, that is, I'll be creating a different game object for that. I'll be calling it content, right, which will then hold the slider as a full rect, which means content is going to be the remaining 60%. Alright, so yeah, also the handle shouldn't be this big, I assume. So alright, why is it 10 to the left and 10 to the right? Alright, yeah, this isn't really fully required. Alright, alright. So 0.1, 0.9 as well, right? So one of the handle doesn't stick with the next handle or whatever, right? So that is a gap as well onto the handle. So this is what we get, which isn't bad for now, but I'll also consider changing the background to black, right, for now. Also, the slider value should be somewhat higher. Also, I didn't change the fill value to something else. Maybe I'll make it tailed, yes, but then I can also now add bleeding to the fill area, that is 2 pixels from each and every corner, essentially creating a border. Oops. Right, so it's basically something like this. Alright, maybe the handle can be of different color. I am not really thinking about the designing aspect of anything, but I guess I'll keep it like this. Alright, that's it. So we can now have our volume as a slider, of course. Maybe if we don't want a slider, we can have another system, but for now I have created a slider and I'm going to stick by it. Right. So we have volume and its content. Now what kind of volume is this? Is this going to be master volume or what? So I'll just name it master. Basically master audio, because we are within the audio settings, so it makes perfect sense to have this named as master. What other settings do we have within the audio? The other one would be, I guess, music, right? So I'll definitely get this at 0.6 and 0.8 so that it doesn't interfere with the slider above. So essentially creating something else, right? That is maybe music, right? Now it does look weird uh, to have this aligned all the way like this. In that case, what we can also do is have them left aligned and not give them the entirety of the rectangle width. That is, we have to trial and error a lot to see what suits or what fits or how it looks good or how it looks bad, whatever. Alright. So yeah, I would also like to make this small caps so that it looks like this now. Right. Also, the general settings should be, or the tabs should also be in small caps, because I honestly think that looks much better. Right, so I have general audio video and then I have master music and everything, but for now these are just dummies, just placeholders and whatever. They don't have a real purpose as of now, which also I would be making some settings. The name of it does not exist in the current context. What, bro? Alright, so also to keep in mind, audio settings would still be disabled or would always be disabled. In fact, it would only be appearing for when I click the audio button, right? And of course settings wouldn't be appearing as well unless settings were clicked by the main canvas, right? So I press play, I switch to settings and I see general, video or maybe audio, and I see the audio settings, and for when I get rid of the audio settings, it should just turn off the game object or set game object or whatever. Alright, so by default we do want general settings to be activated, like we just don't want to go to settings and find that there is nothing, right? Something should be available, in which case general always, then we set to audio and we can see the audio settings, or maybe then we can see the video settings. For now we haven't really touched on how to disable the audio settings, so yeah, we'll do that. But before, I would like to revise what I had made, to avoid confusion in the future or whatever, right? So I'll be revising it after a short break. I'll be starting the break right now.
Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait.
Alright, so yeah, I realized that took longer than what was advertised on the screen for 5 minutes. So yeah, I was about to revise all of this. Correct. Alright. Yeah. So let's begin with canvases. Right. It has nothing but a rect transform, a canvas game object, as well as a canvas scalar. Then a parent background wherein we can add our character, or maybe we can add a video, in which case maybe we ought to add a raw image instead of a normal image, right? In which case we can also add directly a video on it, correct? So that would be much more suitable. Then we move on to main canvas that inherits the properties from the parent canvas. We can override sorting and what else, and also a canvas scaler along with a graphic recaster, which is supposed to be unique for each and every different canvas, correct? Alright, so in that case we have options. Now these options are supposed to be as simple as they can be, right? For example, the continue button should be disabled in the beginning, and it should only be available after a save file has been made. That is, if a save file exists in the save directory, which means we will be required to create such a system while creating the game or while making the gameplay phase. Now we cannot just create a save file out of nowhere because we don't have a gameplay right now. So there's that. Then a new game button, which would essentially reset the story and basically start everything from the beginning. Now I don't know, we shouldn't be adding anything here right now, but it should be simply having basically an async sync loader, I guess. Probably, I don't know, I'm not going to think much about this right now, right? And then we have settings, which should be simple. It only does one thing, that is opening up the settings canvas, right? Even if we don't disable the main menu canvas, it isn't going to cause us any problems, right? If I just turn on the settings, yes, it is going to cause us problems. You know why? Because we can still click the exit button through this panel right here, unless we decide if this panel should also be a raycast target, in which case we cannot click stuff behind it. Alright, now that is what raycast target does. That is, whatever graphic is closest to the mouse, right? Now how do you determine closest? That is definitely determined by its sorting order, right? Now if the settings canvas were atop of main camera, then we would definitely be having, or we would definitely be rendering the main canvas at the latest, but we don't. So everything is defined by its sorting layers, right? So now that this background is closer to the screen, it would allow me to still click on this exit button. Now I don't really want that as well, which means we would be also required to turn off the main canvas, correct? That is not disabling the entire game object, because disabling the entire game object would run so many on enable and on disable calls for so many different components. Correct? Right. Let's say agar is if I were to disable this game object, it called on enable and disable for literally everything that existed within this. For this vertical layout group, for this buttons, for the text mesh pros inside of them, for a singular rect transform and everything that is. Right. So we don't want to disable the entirety of the game object. Whether instead we just want to play between different canvases. Right. Alright, so now in that case, this is just fine. And then we have the exit button, which does nothing but runs or executes a very simple function. And yeah, that's it, I guess, for the main canvas. Now we move on to the settings canvas, right? That is basically, also I should be suffixing it with the word canvas, that is settings canvas, right? Now for about background, now this is going to be the settings background, right? It has this and that and so on, right? And then it has a general tab, which are basically buttons, but we would be required to customize these buttons for whenever they are selected. So first of all, I'll be changing the selected color to somewhat like this, right, for each and every single button, right? So for when they are selected, now I am able to see very clearly which tab I am currently in, right? That's pretty handy, unless you click out, right? Unless you click somewhere else, in which case it is never selected. So we would have to create or maybe customize this button for our own preferences. We'll do that later. Alright. So then we have the general settings background, basically the general options, and then we have audio options. Instead of calling it the settings, because there's already a word or a game object with such a word contained in it. And within the audio options we have these two things such as master, music, and so on, right? So yeah, there's that. Alright. And maybe I'll just add more tabs, because why not, right? I'll just call this 3 and 6, maybe 4, right? And I'll just call this dialogue, right? Dialogue will also have some content. Then each and every contents slider should be kept at a value of 0.8, I guess, right? So we now have all of this, which means we can now stop working on audio options, because these are the only audio options we are going to get, and now we should start working on general options. right? Or maybe even video options. In the case, what would be in general options? I have no idea. Alright, so instead I'll start working on video options. Right, maybe even we get rid of general options if I don't, you know, try to find any ideas for it. Maybe you guys can provide some ideas in the comments. Yeah. Um, so right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this master and then put it into audio options. Oh, sorry, video options. My bad. Yeah. Now, audio options and video options should be sharing the same rect, that is, copy and paste component values, and this should also be done using the same stuff. Now, instead of master, I am going to call this vsync, right? And I am just going to label it as vsync, right? And instead of having a slider within the content, I am now going to have options, or basically a drop down and the content, right? Or maybe I can also just create two buttons, that's fine as well, right? Or let's say if slider is also fine, but in this case I may also switch it to whole number, which means either it can be on or either it can be off, right? Which, I mean, it doesn't make much sense like this, so I'll just get rid of slider. It looks bad, really bad. Yeah. I'll instead just create a drop down, or maybe just two buttons, right? Even if I were to create two buttons, I would have to divide these buttons into a vertical layout group. Oops, sorry, not a vertical layout group, a horizontal layout group, right? In that case, I would have two buttons directly like this, one for saying on or one for saying off, since I don't want a drop down, right? Why would I want a drop down just for two options? Alright, so yeah, there's also that. So content is going to contain literally two buttons, that is on or off. Now I don't really like to rename stuff that have been created by default, right? If I were to create this button, I don't like to rename this. That is why I hold it in a parent container, which can be full rect, right? So that to me makes more sense, right? So I'll just call this off and on. Alright, that is fine. Why is it not fine? What happened to it? Okay, yeah, full track messed up. Right. So we can then also have resetted the sprites, and within the contents I could have given it a spacing of 10 again. Alright. So that concludes our vsync settings. Also, to have this text as auto sized and small caps, right? So we now have an on and an off button. Now we need to customize this button as per our whatever setting we decide. If the vsync is on, we need to render this as a bit darker, and vice versa. Alright, so I guess that's it. Yeah, maybe in this instance, maybe it's too much to go inside of it. I'm having second thoughts. Maybe I'll just call this on button and I'll just call this off button. Yeah, sure, I don't like to rename stuff, but sometimes it's not a good idea to go really deep into the hierarchy. So maybe an on button or off button would just help, right? like button v on, or maybe button v off. If we were to drag and drop it somewhere, and we would be able to then realize what button is it, we just wouldn't see a normal value such as it's called button tmp or whatever. All that would be much more confusing, I guess. So yeah, in this particular case, there was no requirement for breading, that is, no requirement for adding a parent empty game object, right? These two guys can handle it on their own. Oops. Alright, so now that that's done, maybe I can add more stuff, such as full screen options, right? Maybe call it resolution, right? And I'll again use the same values. Now I'm not creating a scroll or a scroll area because I don't think I really need to, right? The settings should be enough. And also on top of that, I do want the content buttons to not cover the entirety of the area, which means right, it would look something like this, so that there is enough gap between them, right? Now uh, I kind of did the same thing with the handle, right? So maybe I can get rid of that and maybe have the entirety of the content cropped, right? So that the sliders don't touch or the handles don't touch each other. If I don't have the content as oh, this isn't a problem. Alright, so it looks no, it isn't fine in this case because um, if I go to another slider, which is where we did the same thing, I'll now see the slider touches each other. So maybe we can just have, for the sake of consistency, the content in here shrink just like we did in video settings, right? So that there is less interference, right? Same with dialogue, right? So it looks something like this. Alright, I'll turn off the audio options. Yes, it's a mess. And I'll turn on video options, but that's generally how UI is supposed to be. It is always going to be a mess. And within the resolutions, I'll just change this tag to resolution. Alright, and I guess I want to have this atop of vsync. That should be changing, right? No? Oh yeah, it shouldn't be because I used anchor points and not the other stuff. So basically, this should be 1.8, right? And this should be 0.8 and 0.6, right? So that it is now swapped. And resolutions should then have, instead of content, another game object. Now content is necessary to be an empty game object, right? Because it adds the readability, and in this case we did require two objects within the content, so to hold them together in one place we do require a parent rect. So in this content I would be adding oops, I would be adding a drop down text mesh pro, right? Now this drop down text mesh pro would not have, oh yeah, there is the image, I want to reset that. There's the viewport, I want to reset that as well, and there's a scroll bar which I want to reset as well. I would change the scroll bar's color to gray. I would change the viewport's color to maybe 80, I guess. Scroll bar should be even darker, maybe 25. Right, this can be 80 or whatever. And now if I go to viewport and if I then go to content and content, okay, yeah, that's a different story, I guess. Right, check mark is required, sure, and then item label A, which can be auto sized, I guess, and the minimum size can also be 12 or whatever, and maximum can be 36 in this instance. And I do want कि इसका जो label है, this should for now be auto sized as well, right? And it should be totally black. Yeah, so do we want the same stuff onto the button on and button off text as well? We want them to be totally black. Right, now I go back to resolutions and yeah, I try to press play and see what is available. I is it so small? What happened? Alright, what happened? I have no idea. I have no clue. Alright, so drop down is not supposed to have anything right here, and template is just too small. It's way too small. Right, now if I weren't on a full HD screen and if I was on a 16:9 aspect, it would be acceptable to look at, but on a resolution of 1920 1080 it just looks bad. And because our UI is designed for this and not this. Now why is this happening? Right, because maybe we do not require such high text sizes, or basically font sizes maybe, right? And what happened to title, in fact? Since everything wasn't right, things should be in same place except for just text, right? Text can be a bit off, yep. And what I'm going to do is, instead I'm just going to increase the template height by a lot, like 300 pixels, maybe twice it. Increase it a bit more, 600. Right, it still doesn't cover enough. Right, maybe 1000. Now it is not actually changing anything for now. It's because we don't need to adjust the template height. Right, we need to improve or maybe expand the content height. That should be 500, let's say. Right, now it's showing up something, but again the options are not fully set onto it. So what I'm going to do for now is uh, basically I guess I need to reset everything, and maybe if I were to change the canvas size to, or canvas scaler to scale with screen size or whatever, this is how bad it looks. Alright, constant physical size, constant pixel size, whatever. Alright, in that case, if I go to free aspect, or if I go to 16:9, I guess I am willing to change a few things. Maybe I'll enable the main canvas back again, and I'll go to again texts, maybe have it at a max size of, yeah, this shouldn't matter much, right? 72 shouldn't matter much. For now, this is how it looks in full HD, and this is how it looks in a reference resolution. There is not much of a difference. Alright, in that case, yeah, I guess. So मेरे को थोड़ा बहुत changes करना पड़ेगा for each and every text mesh pro that I have added. Maybe I'm going to add bleeding to them. Right, bleeding of 10 pixels from all areas so that वो अंदर contained रहे. Right, and basically the same for every other text mesh pro to remain. Right, 10, 10, 10, 10. Right, so basically it looks kind of the same. Oops, my bad. It looks kind of the same in full HD versus freezing. Of course, there are going to be some issues. Right, there will be some adjustment to heights and everything, and we cannot possibly control them. But this is what we can control for now. Right, the size of 60 or maybe a smaller size that is 36 would also suffice for now. But 36 would not look good in or on a bigger button, right? So in which case we do require a safety side of 48. Right? Now the sizes also differ based on where we are creating the game. A size of 48 is great for a computer, or for maybe a simulator it's very small, right? For a mobile it might look very small. Okay, I don't have any additional devices installed, never mind. Right, so I guess, yeah, I'll stick with the size of 48. This is what I adjusted for the mean canvas for now. Now we need to adjust everything under the settings canvas as well. For now, I guess I'll just get rid of video options or basically anything. I'll just switch to title. I'll try to make, okay, it wasn't full rec before, that is why. Alright, so yeah, we are not to worry about. It wasn't full rec before. Alright, so in that case, settings is fine as to where it is. I'll just add a little bit of bleeding on top as well as the bottom, so to make sure it stays in its place. Right, so if I now switch to full aspect, or doesn't matter, 16 is fine, everything still is or looks the same, nothing changed much. Now onto the tabs. For each and every single button I would also like to add a few bleeding. Right, I don't need to add bleeding onto the left or right because the texts aren't lengthy enough to be containing the entire stuff. But yeah, also I don't think I really, yeah, I don't need bleeding, I don't need bleeding. 5 5 5, that's safe space, safe space. Yeah, so that's that. Right, done. Now onto the audio options. We can now have this master. Alright, master, music. I don't need anything else. I don't need content. I just need the labels. Right, now this labels, maybe they aren't given. I mean, we did try to give them the all of the space we can, right? Maybe a size of 60 or maybe 36 is a bit helpful. In which case, अगर हम लोग इसको बड़ा करके देखते हैं and full HD पे भी देखते हैं, 36 looks a bit smaller, right? So we don't want it to be like that. So basically इसको 72 या 60 का अलाउंस देना पड़ेगा, and this also means कि we need to add bleeding to it. 10 10 10 10, right, for it to be on the center. Right, So if we go back to game panel and full screen predictor, and this is how it looks right now here and then here, right? So alright, maybe the bleeding is enough of 10, maybe decrease it to a value of let's say like 5, so it looks like this. So yeah, everything is getting quite in its place, correct? So after that I would get rid of audio options and I would turn on video options and yeah, let me just first make sure that this is clear, then I'll go over there. Why does a dialogue not look like it's on the middle? Right. Slider definitely on the middle. Content, if I go to slider, is it full text? Yes, it is. It is on the middle, but yeah, it doesn't look like it. Dialogue looks very weird, like a word, or as a word, maybe. Yeah. So, alright. This is 50.1. This is 50.1. I want each and every piece of text to be of the same size. So I'm going to turn off the audio options finally, and let's say video options पे जाते हैं and resolution और vsync में थोड़ा सा changes करना है. Resolution पे content बंद करता है because we don't really require that. इसको sure इसको पूरा का पूरा reference देता है, लेकिन bleeding भी देना साथ में, right? That is for 5 pixels each. Now we do the same thing right here, that is so remove its anchor restrictions and instead provide or play it out on bleeding the stuff, right? So maybe अगर इसको मैं resolution क्या होता है या फिर मैक्स साइज बड़ा करके देता हूँ, ये ज़्यादा स्पेस कवर करेगा भाई, because resolution doesn't have enough space to cover the entirety of the thing. So maybe if 60 पे, if हम लोगों ने ऑडियो ऑप्शन 60 पे रखा है, then इसका मैक्स साइज हम लोग को 60 पे रखना पड़ेगा. And yeah, on a bigger screen it is going to look the same because they are now covering or consuming the same amount of size, but on a lower screen it's going to look uneven, right? Because Revolution is trying to scale itself to a lower size now, right? So let's say if we get rid of auto sizing, does it work? No, right? Because the size would still remain constant, and let's say if the constant size we provided were of 48, now that is what would look bad, right? Now we want this thing to scale along with everything else, and we cannot contain it, so auto sizing does seem out to be the only option for us, right? So to not have it the weird stuff. So yeah, there's that. Or maybe everything can just be an image, in which case nothing is ever going to scale itself to a smaller size or whatever, right? So after we sync, yeah, resolution के अंदर भी एक सीन हुआ था कि अपना options वगैरह दिखना नहीं था. So now if we press play, we can now actually see all the options and we can also select between the options. So for now I'm just going to go to content, drop down, and native for now. I'm going to add or basically remove everything from its drop down, right? I don't need any options for now. Alright, so there is also that. Oof. And what else can we add instead of resolution and wasting? Graphics, yeah, graphic settings. Right. So graphic settings would be very similar to resolution, that is being a drop down as well, that is graphics, which is what I would call it, and I would also name it as graphics. Alright, I would then also go to get this onto 0.6.4. Right, that's it. And this content would then be filled with options such as low, medium, high, or ultra. Of course, we are not supposed to add these options by ourselves. We are required to fetch it from the project settings, quality, and quality levels, where we can add or remove multiple quality levels. And then, after fetching this data, we need to add it to this drop down so that everything remains fine. So that if the next developer would try to get rid of this, he wouldn't be seeing an option called as very low. That would just throw an exception, right? That is not what we want to have. So yeah, we do have graphics. We press play, and we can now see other options to select from. Alright, Wasting for some reasons looks very big to me. It looks really bad, but I guess it is what it is in this case. Right. So there is one tiny mistake, I guess. This looks very bad. Unaligned stuff and everything. That is on, off, and low is aligned to the left. But yeah, this is still not the final stuff. This is just for placing stuff in its place. So we don't have to make it at a later date. Right. To be honest, I don't have any topic for today, so that is why I decided to do the CY. That is grey boxing, and for some reasons consuming 3 hours of time. Alright. Also, I wanted to explore more about UI, so this is the first time I'm also approaching with multiple canvas stuff. I saw someone else doing or performing this approach, and I just got curious as to why how would it even work. So this is the first time I'm actually trying to add canvases as child canvases. Right, I am entirely not sure of how or what its drawbacks or positives are. Right, I'm not entirely sure for what its positives or drawbacks are, but yeah, it just got me curious, and now I am seeing yeah, it's fine. It's not convenient necessarily, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it is what it is. Alright, so we will be fetching the resolutions and putting it into the resolutions drop down, and then we would also be fetching the graphic settings from the graphic, or basically quality settings class within the Unity. Right, so for now let's just select or maybe create a script called as oops a resolution. Right, now and that's the resolution. For now, my job is to just fetch this data and not do anything with it. Right, for now, for the first step. So first of all, I'll be creating a drop down. A resolution drop down. We'll go to awake, or maybe you can serialize it, possibly. If we are serializing it, I would go to reset and say drop down dot get component. Why? Oops, drop down will be equals to get component, not dot get component, right? So yeah, after that I would also want key on basically start if I am to enable this script. Alright, in that case I want to fetch a list of resolutions which I can easily get from screen.resolutions. Right, it gives me an array of different resolution structs. So yeah, basically uh, I just say private resolution. Oops, also yeah, I forgot the class name is same. What's the type again? It's the same name, right? That is unit engine, not resolutions. That is, I would have to change the name of this class to a resolution handler, maybe. Yeah. So I can just have a private resolution array resolutions, right? Which would then be equal to screen dot resolutions, right? So basically, I would also then add array dot for each resolutions and resolutions, right? I would then just add drop down dot add option, right, as basically a list. Huh, a list of string. That's interesting. So I first need to create a list. What? When did this happen? Alright, so maybe I need to create a list, or maybe I need to convert this into a string of lists for some reasons. Uh, Alright, so I am just curious for now as to what would happen if I were to print a single element. Resolutions 0 dot toString. If I were just to print this, I am curious because I have no idea what this does. Alright, so resolution handler TMP drop down. This should work for. Oh, this won't work. Yes, because this is supposed to be on the child object. Yeah, so इसको drag and drop ही करना पड़ेगा. That is, I'll remove the reset because that is never going to work, and I'm just going to now press play, and then I'm going to just see it did print out 640 480 at 74.973 hertz, right? So why do I need to create a list, man? Alright. Where list will be equals to new list of string, right? Let's go step by step. List dot add, right, resolutions, each and every resolution basically. जब मैं पहले क्या था array dot for each, right? Resolutions. I'm just going to say list dot add resolution dot toString. That's it, right? And then I'm going to go to drop down and add options as this list. Is there anything? Is there not anything else? Add options or basically nothing. Is it necessary to put in a list? Because yeah, that is not an issue. But why would I want to create a list? Alright, in that case, add options list. What else can we do? Correct. Alright, yeah, that's fine. This is going to work. I would also try my hands at link statement. I'm not sure if I can pull that off, but I'll give it a shot. Right. So, alright, yeah, full HD, never mind. And so I can see different resolutions. Also, there is one thing about this drop down is that the handle should also be reset, and I'll have it full black. Right. So why? What am I missing with a different? Yeah, I'm missing with a different drop down. So again, I'll reset this. I'll make it full black, and I'll press play, and I will expect it to have something like this. Yeah, nice, not bad. And also the sliding area or the basically scroll bar should be, I guess, a little less darker now. Right. So all this resolutions do support 75 Hz because that's what my monitor is at right now, and this should only fetch stuff for when a monitor is sorry, or for when a game is started, right? We cannot hardcode this stuff because it's going to be different for each and every different monitor, right? So yeah, I also like to arrange my namespaces or using directives on top. And yeah, I was going or about to try my hands at a link statement, so I'll just comment this and I'll just say drop down dot add options, and then I'm going to write resolutions dot cast resolutions dot to list dot for each, or basically select, yeah, select everything, or maybe aggregate. Aggregate into what? A function that okay, it is only going to return me resolution. I don't want that. uh, Resolution sort it is a list, but then I want it to cast to a string basically, right? So basically I do require for each resolutions to be resolution dot to string, and this will then be to list. Not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Alright, so I guess I'll try to keep my hands at it on the background Meanwhile, I'll turn on an actual 5 minutes break this time.
Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Just a few more minutes. I'll be back shortly. I know you're waiting. I'll be back shortly. Just a few more minutes. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hi, I hope you're learning well. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. Hey, thanks for still being here. I'm excited to share my experience with you. I'll be back shortly. I'm right along the way. I'm coming. Just wait. Hey, I know you're waiting.
Yup. So, I think I figured it out. Ouch. Yep. That is drop down dot add options resolutions dot instead of converting it to list first, we convert it later. We select a single resolution and then we convert that resolution to string, and that is what we create the list of. Alright, that is resolutions select. That is, we are selecting each and every resolution, basically running again a for each loop, but not actually a for each, but we can say it's very close to a loop, right? So which converts each and every resolution into a string and then stores that value as an enumerable, which we then use to convert the entirety of the list that we found for a string, because it is now returning a string to a list, right? A collection of enumerable strings was then converted to a list, right? Because that is what our return type is supposed to be now, right? Our return type is a string, so that it returns that. If our return type was with, right, now this would then return an enumerable of integers, which is, it changes its type based on whatever value is returned. So we have this. Now we can get rid of this entire thing, and instead of just holding this here, we can also just say something like this. So basically everything can be done in a single piece of line, right? That's it. What do you mean? Okay, count and flex, alright. Alright, so I guess I'll just press play, and we will now see different resolutions all attached to this drop down, right? Now to create a function that basically stores our set drop down for whenever we are entering or exiting uh, the settings menu or the main menu or basically the game, we would have to store it within the settings scriptable object as a native resolution, that is basically maybe a string. Alright, so for this, for the sake of readability, I'll be running this assignment atop. I am happy with just selecting resolutions, and then whatever I select would then be stored in a variable called as a selected resolution, right, which would then be created on the settings. So I'll create a private resolution current, right. Now I do require a reference to the settings object right here, right, or basically I can just call it m settings, because for some reasons Unity decided to not hide the prefix o underscore, right. So yeah, you can see o underscore, but if when I change it to m underscore, it hides the prefix. Ouch. Right, so we can now select the settings, our default settings that we have had from the beginning, and then we can assign whatever option we selected into this thing, right. Settings dot resolution. Alright, okay, because that is private, my bad. Settings dot current, right, that is current what, current resolution. So having something called so vaguely within a setting slot is also not a good look, right. Basically I'll just remove this right here, and I'll say settings current resolution, right, so that it also follows the naming conventions such as partial scaling for public variables, and we'll just say current resolution will be equals to whatever we had selected. So our selection will then go on to our value change, right. So basically whenever the value change property for this, yeah, value change property for this specific drop down is called, only then we can then change or set the current resolution's value, right. So I'm now going to say on enable drop down dot on value change, I am going to add a listener. Now what is this? It's an event, so is it add listener? Yeah, alright, add listener, and not plus equals to. Alright, so I'm going to first of all add a call, right. For that I'm going to make a different function, that is public void on set resolution. What? Alright, set resolution will be added as a listener, and it doesn't go event dot int. Alright, unity action integer call, right, it requires an integer int value. All right. Yeah, that would be much easier. Why didn't I think of that? Alright, on disable. So basically, it's much easier than I expected. I was trying to think of other solutions, so now that I do get an integer callback, it would be as simple as setting embed settings that current resolution will be equals to resolutions value. Simple as that. Alright, that's it. Also on disable, I would be removing the listener. So yeah, alright. That is basically our resolution handler, I guess. Alright. So within the settings, we do store whatever our current resolution is, and on start of the on the beginning. Oh yeah. On the beginning, also we need to set the value to that specific resolution. So basically, uh, drop down dot value will be equals to how to get index of a specific value in an array. So basically I'll say for int I equals to 0, I is the central section of length. I'll then also say if resolutions I if is if m settings dot current resolution is equals to resolutions I, in that case I would then set drop down dot value to I. Don't tell me resolutions cannot be there is no way resolutions cannot they cannot be compared. Holy, okay. Do they not have a compare? They don't. All right. So am I supposed to match the height and width individually? Refresh it is another struct. What the hell? I'm curious to see what it has. It has a comparable. That has a comparable but not resolution. So I don't understand. Alright, it is what it is. So in that case, where context will be equals to m settings dot current resolution, right? And this is going to be of type resolution. Again, there is so much resolution in this script and other, right? That is resolutions I, right? Now I'm going to compare them individually. That is if context dot width equals other dot width and context dot height equals other dot height and context dot refresh. Okay, now what the hell is the ratio? So we directly get alright. What else does it have? Okay, it only has that refresh rate ratio is equals to other dot refresh rate ratio. Why isn't that comparable? Alright. Yeah, I also didn't care to check if this equals other. Right, now it would only work again if there was an overrided equal in here, but equals is sure to be available for each and every type that is in C sharp, although it is not given that this would work, right? Because they never override it. If the equals is never overridden, it always returns false. So I'm not gambling on if equals is going to work or not. I for a certain know it is not going to work because it isn't overridden in here. Right? They overrided to string, but not equals. So yeah, it's definitely not going to work. And also, it seems I cannot compare refresh rate ratio, so I'm just going to stick with and height for now, right? That's, I guess, much better. So then I'm going to store this value within the current resolutions, and does the resolution class get serialized? It doesn't. It isn't. Uh, okay, it doesn't serialize itself. Good to know. Right. Also, I don't really think I need to assign this every iteration onto the loop, right? And also I can just say something like this, and I'll say other will be equal to resolution I. Right? I'll just create this variable once, and it can be then reused in the loop again and again and again. And for when the value is found, I do want to break the loop. Alright. So yes, there is a lot of refactoring that needs to be done within the resolution handler, but yeah, I guess that is supposed to be working for now. Alright. Phew. So why didn't it fetch? Maybe because I changed names. Wait, what happened? What? Oh, resolutions at length, because resolutions is not currently set. Of course, I need to add this after I set everything. That is probably best on enable and not start. Correct. So I press play for now, and I see different resolutions, but now where is the error? What does the error say? Null reference exception, it instance cannot be found for handler on line number 23. Alright, now what can be nullable in line number 23? It's the only array that I can think of that can be nullable. Now why is the array nullable? Because it wasn't filled on. So maybe if I were to replace this resolutions with instead screen.resolutions, would that still throw a null reference exception? Now I'm not really sure, because I think this is the second time I'm working on resolutions, and the first time I worked on, I managed to take help from a very structured online tutorial. So 25. Alright, again. Now other resolutions that I alright. Alright, so yeah, resolutions doesn't seem to be filled. So alright. In that case, I'll also say if this isn't filled, then it should be screen.resolutions. Right. So I'm not going to change the entirety of the thing. Of course, I will be refactoring the code. This is just bad for now, and I'm just trying to make the functionality work. Right. So alright, there are no more exceptions. I select 1024 768. I store it onto the default settings object. I press play again, and it doesn't come back to 1024. Now that is because this cannot store data that isn't serialized, I guess. Right. So basically, if I were to call this on awake and I were to print if that is debug.log current resolution dot width plus current resolution dot height. Now that would just add two numbers, and I don't want that. I want them to concatenate instead of being added together, right? So I'm just going to draw this symbol in between, and I'm just going to check what the value of that resolution is at beginning. It wasn't awoken, right? So nothing happened, I guess. Alright then. I'm going to also, for temporary, make this function public, and after I set the resolutions, I then also want I then want to call mSettings dot awake for some reasons. So that is surely going to print everything, and then I'm going to also call awake onto the start function for this script right here. So that should sure print something. It printed 00. Now it did go to the value of 720 576, but it doesn't store the value, as you can see. For when you press play again, the value goes back to 00. Now this is because, again, a resolution type isn't serialized. So we would want to store the value in a much more complicated manner. Now this is not looking pretty. Just a minute. Hmm. Then I would be storing it with two different integers, that is width and height, right? I would also be putting it on a different line because I want to add a header that will be called as resolution. So every time I open up uh, this game, I want to set it to my default resolution, that not the default resolution that I customized within the settings, right? So I'll for now comment everything else that is causing an error for now, right? So sure, we can also get the resolution that we are currently using from the screen, that is screen.width and screen.height, can be gathered at runtime, but I don't want this drop down to just show up what my current resolution is. I want this drop down to show up what my saved resolution is from the last time I turned off the game or Alt F4 or exited the game, whatever. I want to fetch the resolution from my last play session into the next PlayStation or play session that I will be making, right? So for that, we are required to store it within the scriptable object that is called as settings, right? And यहाँ पे अपना resolutions would look something like this, uh, right? Width and height. Now I would also make this values read only, but of course that cannot be done simply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to scripts, and I'm going to create editor and tools, right? Within tools, I'm going to first of all write a read only attribute. Right, now this is definitely not necessary, but just something that I like to have, right? I'm just going to say into engine dot property attribute. Right. This specific attribute has like a million tutorials available online, like how to create an attribute. This is the result that will pop up, right? So I'll go to idle script and I'll just create a normal C# script, and I'll call this read only attribute drawer. I don't think I should be explaining all of this, and this should be easily available online. Bye bye. And I'll just call this custom drawer property drawer, which should be available in custom property drawer type of read only attribute, and then I can say it's a property drawer that needs to override from get property height. Sorry, not property height, it should be overriding on GUI, and we'll just say discard will be equals to editor GUI dot property field, right? That is position property label for whatever we are getting from this override, and I want everything to be in a new disabled scope. That is using new editor GUI dot disabled scope will be equals to true. Alright, so basically this. Bye bye. So it automatically turns and disposes of the whatever it is supposed to after the scope has ended. Right. So yeah, I guess that's fine. That is basic read only, right? So if I were now to use this attribute onto a serialized property, it would work just fine. That is read only, right? That is if I go to objects now, I wouldn't be able to set it. This is hidden, which is good because I never want to accidentally change it. Right. So yeah, that's in settings, resolution handler, and now I unspaghetti this mess. Yeah, I unspaghetti this mess, whatever. Alright, what is where? Where am I? Why am I? Settings, we have that drop downs and different resolutions. Do we even really require such an array? Right, that is, yeah, maybe we do, who cares. So we go to start, we add different resolutions to the list, and um, basically we also bind add listener on enable, right? But before we do anything else, we are when we set resolution, we then want to set m underscore settings dot width will be equals to resolutions value dot width, right? And we can then say height will be equals to height, right? Everything is still going to be mostly the same, and I think I better call this unawake for now. Just go away. Alright, okay. I better call this unawake for now. Now I'm just going to write in the same loop, that is for integer I, this and that. I'm just going to write if what the context is, what is the context. I'm just going to create a resolution other. This will be a local variable, and other is then supposed to be resolution size for now, right? So if I'm just going to say m under settings dot width is equals to other dot width, and then m under settings dot height equals to other dot height. In that case, drop down dot value will be equals to I, and then I'm going to break this loop, and I don't really need other in this case. This was just to refer and to it was just to refer from this code, right? So yeah, I guess that's that. There's that. I have this right now. Alright. So on enable, I am now also restoring what resolution I was set on previously. Right. That is same settings, drop on whatever resolution, screen resolutions, and so I will set resolution. But I'm not actually setting the resolution. I'm just storing the value for now, which is what I just need to do for now, right? So if I now press play, and if I am then going to select anything, as you can see, it also changes the value on my scriptable object right here, because that is exactly what I'm doing. And when I press out of the play option, it still remembers it because it is serialized. Now this is only going to work on a single play session, and when I press play, it doesn't fetch from it. What the hell? Interesting. Yeah, also maybe because why? Alright. Yep. I'm completely going to get rid of this array because it's very unpredictable to work with, and I'll just go screen dot resolutions because it is basically literally the same thing, right? It is the same thing, and I'm just going to use that everywhere instead, right? That is, yeah, that screen dot resolutions dot value height and so on, right? And instead I'm just going to also call this this this, right? And I can now also say using static screen instead, that is unity engine dot screen, so I don't really have to write screen dot this, screen dot that. I can directly use their static members without having to call the base class. What is happening with my mouse? Alright, so yeah, that looks much cleaner, like resolutions is still a part of this class, but it isn't. We are fetching it from screens directly, right? Being a static variable, that is great. Now I also need to make sure if that actually gets okay, that's just gets shim manager resolutions, and then we are casting it back to this. Alright, that was quite stupid. Alright, resolutions, we go to this, and that's a lot of redirection. It gets stuff from C++. Alright, so basically it fetches resolutions from C++ every time we are calling it. So maybe it's not that bad of idea to cache it, but I don't think in this instance we do want to cache it, because even we are not changing it on runtime. We are just changing it for when we are in this very specific GUI menu, right, when we are actually changing this very specific drop down. So I don't think it's going to impact caching stuff. It's rather just going to be a hassle to maintain a global variable of such nature, right? So for some reasons it is now not fetching any reference resolution available from within here. Maybe I need to refactor what I just wrote, and maybe I need to reread it properly. What have I written? For resolutions of length, settings, width. Is it though? I am just going to see if it. I think it is. This part is working just fine. I'm just going to print this entire thing for right now. Alright. Yeah, it is going through, but and then it is not setting up the value for the drop down. Why? Because drop down value is being added later. Hey, it's being added later. My bad. So I need to put this on to start right here, I guess. Yeah, that was my bad, my bad, my bad. I Yep, great. It is now working fine, right? I go to 1280 720 and I press play again. It comes back to 1280 720 because now it is fetching the same results from the scriptable object. And for when we fetch the results, we then want to set the same resolutions onto the entire application, so that we don't have to actually set the same settings every time we press play or every time we launch the application. That would be annoying, right? एक बार application launch किया, सब setting किया, you close the game, you come back tomorrow, launch the same game, and all your settings are reset. You have to set it all again. We don't want to do that. You just want to set it once, and then you just want to have the convenience of just pressing the play and starting the game immediately. Okay, most people only touch settings once in their life for an average game. That is at the beginning, right? That is, if you have a good enough PC, you set everything to ultra and never go back to settings again, because your PC can handle it. If you have a medium PC, you try to set shadows to low and textures and vegetations and everything back to high, right? You try to mess around, you see settings and everything, and once it's done, you never go back to settings unless you experience significant amount of frame drops. Even then, you still try to go through, because not you, I mean me. That is, I think that certain area was not looked upon when optimizing the entirety of the game, so it will be fixed in the next area. Alright, so yeah, I never actually touched this advanced settings or maybe even resolutions until and after the game is entirely completed, or the next time I install the game to play for the second time, right? So yeah, there is really no need to cache this in that case, right? Let it fetch everything from C++. But yeah, sure, we can actually fetch this for within the start function, that is where resolution will be equal to resolutions, right? For this specific instance, right? Just for this specific instance, because we are using it twice now, right? so we don't want this call to C++ like 3 times or whatever. So it wouldn't matter much. It wouldn't matter much, but still, if you think it disturbs the readability, you are free to remove it. Whatever looks best to you in this case. Whatever looks best. Okay, that is cool. So when setting the resolution, we now also want application.set. It doesn't work like that. Quality settings dot set. How do we actually set resolution? I forgot. I kind of forgot. Uh, Not really. Screen dot set resolution. Yeah, screen dot set resolution. We we actually pass in width and height directly, right? So yeah, the width and height we pass would be from m settings dot width and m settings dot height. Right? And the value would be, of course, true. Alright, that is, we set resolution for whenever things have changed, and then we call this function, this very specific function, back on start. Right, that is, it now sets the resolution for in-game as well. Now this is going to work on the exported application. Right, so that's cool, I guess. Also, I really don't have any idea for general options, so I'm just going to simply remove that. Right, good thing we created layout groups and everything and all that. So yeah, that's great, I guess. Also, I am now going to say कि when I'm pressing the audio button, I do want the audio options to enable, but then I also want video options to disable. Right, and when I am pressing the video options button, now this is very boring. Yeah, I want video options to enable, and then I want audio options to disable. Right. Hello. Busy now. All right. So where was I? All right. Yeah. Video options, audio options, and then just one last thing. We want to go back to main menu from settings. So in order to do that, we would be requiring a back button onto the settings options, so that is around the title for some kind. So I'll just create a button right here, and of course I'm going to make it full red because you know me, and I'll then restrict it to the 10% on the left, and instead of having a text mesh pro, I would later want it to rather have an icon that says go back, right? And instead of, we can also just get UI sprite cable, you can just have a simple icon of some sort. I'll turn off this hidden option, and then I'm going to just see what icons are available. The previews being loaded? Yep, they are being loaded. If not, is there any icon available in editing that I can use for now, at least temporarily? Sorry. And it should have a back icon, right? It should. Don't tell me it doesn't. It does not, alright. It does not have it. I'll just use this icon for now, I don't know. Right? I'll preserve aspect ratio and yeah, I'll make it bleed. Alright. So for whenever I press this button, I then want settings canvas to disable itself and the main canvas to enable itself. Simple as that. Right. So if I now go to main canvas, I press play. I can now go to new game. I can actually not highlight, and I can go to settings. I can go to video, audios. I can turn on the master volumes, dialogues, whatever it's supposed to be. I can go to video, and this only this for now stores my settings. Right, to store the value of master and everything would also be an easier task. We just have to create variables for them within our settings scriptable object, and maybe we can store everything here. And even vsync value we have not stored for now, and the text is really fucked up for now. I just cursed, never mind. I meant to say fished up. Yeah, my pronunciation is bad, so I don't know. Yeah. Alright, so we press play again and we try to go back to settings, and we still see it's not set on the custom resolution, but it's set on our current resolution. I can go back to main, I can go back to settings. So we have created some kind of a setting system. That's great, right, for audio and for video. And I would just want to take a last look onto this settings functions. Sorry, what onto this resolution handler class. I'm getting really confused right now. I'm not actually, but I feel alone because there's no one in the class. Everyone left. I'm just here recording everything. That's what I mean, not anything else. Did I just turn on the mic by accident? I think I did. Huh. Alright, my mic camera just turned off. Alright, so where is my cursor? Let me deactivate and activate it, and it's not working right now, right? So tap to unlock, screen unlocked here. Let me turn the connections. GoPro connect, correct. I'll deactivate and activate again. What about GoPro webcam? Okay, the camera is really hot right now. It says please try and reconnect your camera, so I'll reconnect my camera actually. And did it work? Alright, it also says a signal that no battery is available, so that might also be a problem. Yep, I am back. Alright. I accidentally turned off my camera for showing an empty area. So yeah, everyone just left and I am here alone trying to complete this lecture. And yeah, the battery is gone. Alright, it's not going to work anymore. The camera is done. Right, so I'll just disconnect that. And it's very hot right now, the camera. I just keep it somewhere safe. I'll finish up with this specific piece of code. I'll get rid of the camera icon. Maybe I'll just hide some part of it. And yeah, I really don't like writing this part twice, right? There is a struct called as resolutions, but I feel it's so useless because we have to, manage everything individually, such as setting the width, or fetching the width or the height, or even comparing the width and the height. So, what is actually the use of resolutions? Why does even such a struct exist? I have no idea. There might be a reason. Maybe I'm not smart enough or knowledgeable enough to comprehend it, or maybe just out of the context to comprehend it basically. But yeah, I don't get the point for now. So we set the screen resolutions after we perform everything right under the start options, right? That is after we populate the list, and after populating the list we find what was the last value that was set under a scriptable object, even if a value is found. What if no value is found? If the drop down value still remains 0, in that case we would change it back to a native resolution, or maybe we just let it be 0 and let the player change it from settings, right? So yeah, then we go to on enable, we are adding the set resolution call or whatever. That is when we save this settings onto our scriptable object for whatever resolution was set from the said value, right? And then hmm, right, so maybe I can just call the same function right here, and that is drop down dot value, so more like that. Sure. Now this is for when the game is beginning. Of course I'm fetching the value from m settings and I'm setting the value again, so it doesn't make sense enough to run this piece of code, right? And also uh, yeah, I guess that's fine. I will find a way to not repeat this or make it look even better before we start the next session, I guess. So for now, bye bye. I am waving my hands even though you cannot see on the camera because the camera's battery is dead. So if you have any questions, write in the chat right now. I'll be waiting for a minute or two. What's the time? 7:55, right? We can also use the static member, that is the set resolution function from the screens, and change resolution may we set the value under scriptable object and then set that resolution as the width or height basically whatever to this. Yep. Alright.